We pray that your Spirit will visit them in their time of sadness, in their time of illness, and we commit those who look after them. We pray that in their situations, they will also recognize your Lordship as well. And so, Father, we submit this entire session unto your hands. And as we submit this session, we pray the prayer that your Son, our Lord Jesus, taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
I thank the Parliament. You can resume your seat. Honourable members, any petitions? No petitions. Honourable members, notices? No notices. Honourable members, question without notice? Honourable Governor for Morobe, what is your point of order?
Honourable Speaker, the point of order from me was him. I need law standing orders, Masika. Triple man blotanim talk. Triple man blotanim talk. Now, triple talk place and me constitutional talk place. Now, Parliament by use English, Pidgin, na motu. Mr. Speaker, member belong iri, emi prayer long gisla Parliament no talk motu with me hammas through lo harim and prayer. Taso emi talk one mino harim because mina sablo talk motu. Man bro tanim talk tasol by tanim glo is English or Pidgin where tubla talk less me sabe ba mi harim. Now this la service emi how to vote or standing order change or one. Definitely constitution is not changed, but maybe standing order changed. Also, Mr. Speaker, in Oblong, you put him there something, sorry, you know, there's something, all this man, triple man, blotanim toke, come sit down, pass in and by Moglo proceed. Because me like him to all man, give him talk lo motu, me like him to talk lo motu. Motu will die. Now you look there like come up, white man or one him, me will talk. This is our country. No country will even talk no triple talk place. No even will show too much talk English na Pidgin. No me like him, Parliament Speaker, you must organize him triple man suppose standing order him stop yet na constitution. Constitution is definitely there. But the standing order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Governor for Morobe. Your concerns are taken out of. We will look at this in the future. Thank you. Honourable members, question without notice. Member for Abao.
Thank you, Honourable Assistant Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to ask a question without notice to the Honourable Minister for Education. I hope he is here. Honourable Minister for Education. My preamble to my question to the Honourable Minister for Education is, as all of us are convinced that education is number one something law any nation. And during the graduation ceremonies, one of the phrases that I normally use in my school graduations is, time you kiss him certificate and you kiss him master kilo life here. And by open all get a door on Papua New Guinea law world too. And so, and I know that all the honorable leaders agree with that and believe in the power of education for any country. This is why our Vision 2050, Honorable Assistant Speaker, the first pillar of the 7 pillars is human resource development. And so Minister for Education holds a very, very important portfolio, and I'm sure that during his tenureship, he will address many of the issues that we have experienced over the last 47 years. During this question, Honorable Assistant Speaker, I want to focus on one area, and that is experts in education have been advising us, and I particularly sat down with one very well-known educationist who told me this, that from elementary to grade 12, there is a lot of time for our children to have a second certificate or even a third certificate. And how true it is that if you look at the time that our children spend, say from 8 o'clock to 2 p.m. and they go home, 2 p.m. to 5 o'clock, you calculate all those hours for the last, from grade 12, it's many hours that our children have not been exposed to. And therefore, Assistant Speaker, I humbly request the Honourable Minister whether he would agree that we should look at introducing not just a grade 12 certificate at the end of 12 years of education, but our children graduating could have 2 certificates rather than just a grade 12 certificate. And we can choose, Honourable Minister can look at what curriculum, whether it's financial literacy or certificate in business or certificate in hospitality or whatever, many options are there. Huh? And so, Assistant Speaker, I was just calculating, for example, in a certificate, you need about 2 years or even 12 months. For a diploma, you have 2 years. Or for an advanced diploma, before you leave grade 12 and go to university, you could go two years. So grade 5 and 6 and 7, 1 3-year program. Grade 8, 9, and 10, 1 3-year program. Grade 11 and 12, 1 3-year program. And so at the end of the graduation, our children have 2 certificates. And so, Minister, my question is, would you be able to look at this? And if you want a pilot, ABBA will request for a pilot district where we start looking at the curriculum. So at grade 8, our child has a certificate in financial literacy. At grade 12, they probably would have a diploma in whatever is the stream that they choose to make. We are approaching the 50th anniversary. The Prime Minister has been calling us to think outside of the box, and I think this one issue to address this key resource that we have, human resources in our land. Thank you, Assistant Speaker.
Minister for Education.
Thank you, Member thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for his very good question. His questions are in relation to the system that we have. And according to our current education system, we got the structure calls for 2 parts. Number 1 calls for the academic pathway. Number 2 is for the trade skills pathway. Trade skills are observed in the vocational schools settings. And also, in the current reform that we have, those skills are taught in the high school, technical high schools, and technical secondary schools, where all the trade courses are offered, like business studies, computing science, and all those are the certificate courses that we offer. So in the academic pathway, the students from the normal grade from elementary all the way to grade 12, they get the academic certificates. So when they graduate at the end of the year, they have 2 certificates. Trade skills, if they are good in carpentry, plumbing, or business, and all those, they're given those certificates. So that is the system that we have, and those who cannot go through, the government has created a 4th system where the students are given second chance, those who are dropping out from grade 8 and 10s. We have currently our government is paying 100% school fee subsidy to take them on board. But if whatever programs that he has with his consultants, he can write to us, he can contribute that idea so we can incorporate it to our plans, and we can move from there. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Governor of Chimbu.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and congratulations on your elevation as the Deputy Speaker. Our Assistant Speaker, I take this time also to praise my Lord and the people of Chimbu to speak on the floor of this great house. 83 Plaman, like I'm years old. Papa God, the people of Chimbu Salim, me one blakam. Mr. Speaker, I direct my short question to the Minister for Trade and Investment, Honorable Richard Maru. I believe there is a delegation of investors here in the country. If they are looking for investments in the agriculture sector, I want to register Karamui in the Chimbu province as an economical zone in line with Marape Rosso agriculture policy. If they are here for other reasons, can you find investors for me? And realize the Chimbu people's dream of economic empowerment through Karamui. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
Minister for Trade and Investment.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. I want to thank the Governor of Chimbu for a very important question. We don't have a team of investors here. However, we are in the process of undertaking a national study to identify potential special economic zones. So far, my department and ministry have identified 18. And I'm waiting for Treasury to release funding so we can undertake the studies over the next 4 months. It has been in the paper, Mr. Acting Speaker, that we are engaging the Japanese Development Institute together with some local experts to undertake the study, to identify and confirm, screen and rank which provinces and districts have very high potential for special economic zones where there is potential for major economic activity. Mr. Acting Speaker, I can confirm to the Governor and the people of Chimbu that Karamui has been identified as one of the 18 where we are looking at the study. Certainly the issue of road access, state land, and how do we attract and entice investors to go in and unleash the potential of Chimbu in agriculture are issues that this technical team will assess and determine and basically put forward a roadmap on how we can unlock the potential of this very special district in Chimbu. While they are there, I will also ask them to have a look at the prospect for the limestone mine in Chuave. Mr. Speaker, government has already spent about 10 million looking at that project. When the former Minister for Commerce and Trade and the former member for Chuave and the chief of Chimbu was in office. At the moment, we are not looking at it as an economic zone because after spending 10 million, we cannot find an investor, and really there's nothing much to show for it. So the challenge is on the governor and the new member for Chuawe to help us unlock the potential of that project. And I can assure this parliament and the people of Jimbo I will do everything to support this project if we are able to find a credible investor and bring them on board and make it a special economic zone so we can provide the incentives to bring them into Chimbu and unlock the potential of that province. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Pomio.
The question is to the Minister for Mining and the Minister for Environment Conservation to take note, please. Sinibit Mining in Pomio District was operated by New Guinea Gold Limited from August 2007 to June 2012 and stopped its operation or production. Major issue for the closure was due to environmental pollution, mainly from cyanide pollution or contamination, which was a general concern by the local communities. In 2021, the then Minister for Environment Conservation and Climate Change announced that the government was going to commit 9 million kina to conduct water sampling and for the cleanup of the mine deposit debris and report on the general environment. Mr. Speaker, the East New Provincial Government also passed a resolution restricting visits to the abandoned mine site pending the environmental impact report. Despite this, we had several visits by MRA team frequenting this site without the knowledge of the local authorities. Mr. Speaker, my questions are, can the Minister confirm the release of the 9 million kina, and if there are any updated environmental reports of the Sinibit mine to date? And if the funding was not released, I request that this matter be considered as a matter of priority for the 2023 budget. Secondly, can the Minister assure my local landowners and the East New Provincial Government to put on hold the opening of the Sinibit mine till the complete audit of the environmental status and reports is undertaken and presented to ascertain the safety of the mine site? Thank you, Mr. President Speaker.
Minister for Mining.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. A very important question regarding funds earmarked for this project and also environmental concerns. I am not aware of the status of this mine, and I am also not aware of the 9 million kina commitment by maybe by the previous government. I will check on the status of that 9 million kina and come back to you. I will also check on the environmental implications regarding the mine and its operation and also come back to you. I will take your concerns on board regarding the reopening of the mine, and of course those things are not small things that we can do without you being aware of it. So at all stages of the progress of these mine considerations and mine reopening, you will always be part of the process. And I want to assure you that, like myself, I'm new, but during the process of these considerations, you will be part of the process. Your landowners will be part of the process, and of course, your provincial government will be part of the process. Thank you.
Member for Bulolo.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Look Sawalo, people of Bulolo. It's like time. My questions are directed to the Minister for Finance and National Planning, if he's here. Can the question be directed to the Prime Minister?
Honorable Member, the Minister is not here, so you can reserve your question. When he comes, you can be able to question him at that time.
Mr. Speaker, sorry, I still have Minister for Housing and Urban Development and the Minister for Lands and Physical Planning to take note. So, emba mo good life me ask him golo. Prime Minister, so we can take note na.
Thank you, Honorable Member. You can go ahead. Can question the Prime Minister?
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, first, the Bulolo DDA submitted its resolutions to the Minister for Housing and Urban Development on 12th July 2021, and last year as well. I have to preface, as it relates to both Bulolo and Wau Waria electorates, and also other small towns in Papua New Guinea. Mr. Speaker, the Bulolo district hosts one of the first historical towns and known for many fests such as gold, forestry, tea, coffee, rugby league, busiest airport, and hosts major agriculture, forestry, and mining projects in the country. Further, we have so many ethnicities, and since 2005, our people from the Sipik have all been relocated to the front of the police station in a refugee camp that has over 2,000 people without water, sanitation, and other shelters. All government infrastructures, including residential houses in Bulolo, are over 60 years old and would now be used as part of the historical relics. We can preserve some of the heritages, purposes. It needs complete demolition and construction. Further public housing in Bulolo is deplorable. It's in deplorable state, and Bulolo needs immediate public housing and urbanization development. Mr. Speaker, in view of escalating rural-urban migration and the Pangu government focus on delivering social and economic impact projects, we request that the national planning should pilot the public housing and urbanization program in Bulolo district. That's my first point. Number two, further, can your ministry coordinate the settlement of over 2,000 people or persons from the care center established in 2005 and relocate them to a permanent service allotment in Bulolo or elsewhere? Number three, will the national planning and government continue with the 10 houses per district rollout plan that has not reached Bulolo and should be increased to 50 houses for Bulolo? Mr. Speaker, the Bulolo and Wau Waria host the two oldest towns of Wau and Bulolo and has the agricultural processes, genetic chicken and vitis, for example, and forestry, PNG forest products, and mining, Hidden Valley, Wafi Golpu, and alluvial mining, and hosts many national functions such as Bulolo Forestry College, Bulolo Technical School, Wau Small Scale Mining School, Wau Ecology Institute, District Court and National Court circuits, offices for National Housing Corporation, PNG Power Limited, Mobile Squad, Base, Department of Mining and Department of Works, and National Forest Authority. Number one, can the ministry and government build 200 houses for public servants and 100 for the private sector as a pilot project in PNG that can be replicated elsewhere? Finally, last question. Could the government transfer all the old government residential and reserved houses and also NHE houses to the district so that it can maintain and sell off to the permanent residents of Bulolo district who cannot go back due to the various reasons? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Prime Minister of our country.
All right, thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. I want to appreciate the member for Bulolo for asking this series of very important questions. Firstly, and let me, I think the first time I'm responding to a question from him, let me offer my congratulations to himself for winning that important seat. We split the Wau Bulolo seat, and he now takes custody over Bulolo seat. But I see that he's working closely and in partnership with a member for Wau Waria in that part of our country, which is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, economic hub in our country. It has been attracting investments and business activities since the 1920s up till today. It remains very much a very important part of our country and our country's economic activities. With the latest emergence of Wafi Golpu, that will continue to remain a very important part. It is also a melting pot of other parts of our country, people moving into Wau, Bulolo, Mumeng, as well as that part of our Morobe province. So I acknowledge the importance of his district and sister district in terms of trying to convert what we have in Wau, Bulolo, Mumeng into some urban facelift. Next week Tuesday, as we announce the budget, you will realize there'll be an allocation for land mobilization, there'll be allocation for land and urban areas extensions. Certainly, Wau and Bulolo could feature in the consideration to modernize, extend, refurbish some of our towns and cities we have in our country. On the issue of the settlements that need to be relocated proper, again, we could plan proper and look at fixing that place up. Did made mention Wau and Bulolo are important economic districts, economic towns. They contribute to a lot for our country. Let me also announce, in response to one of his questions on the old houses, the housing minister is working on a program for us to give away the old houses that Papua New Guineans have been living on for a long time. That program, once the housing minister is completed with this policy, hopefully it will come very soon before December ends. And the old houses, not just in Wau Bulolo, but right across our country, we're looking at a giveaway program that tenants who are in those houses, we could have a giveaway scheme at very, very low cost, repaying all the rents that is due, and that could be part of a program that Wau and Bulolo public service houses can be looked at. So certainly reordering and fixing up the Wau urban, Bulolo urban areas could be looked at in the context of what we're doing as far as our national urban area and land program is concerned going forward for next year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Kundiawa Gamble.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving an opportunity to the people of Kundiawa Gambog. My question is directed to the Sports Minister. That's in relation to rugby league, a sport that we love the most in this country. The Rugby League World Cup is over, but it exposes PNG standing in the world of rugby league. For a country that has been playing rugby league for close to 3 or 4 decades, PNG did badly compared to the other Pacific Island nations. The government is entertaining the idea of bringing another team into the Australian NRL. This could be a bad joke, considering our standard, and that is not a development pathway for the development of rugby league in this country. So my question to the Sports Minister is, do we have a concrete plan for the development of the sport in this country? Or if not, we may have to refocus or re-strategize into focusing on other sports that are played globally and that attracts global audience, such as soccer. And in this time when we are facing law and order issues in this country, it is important that we come up with a good pathway for sports development in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister for Sports.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. This question is an important question with regards to what we call the national game, Rugby League. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I do not want to abruptly answer to a question when the Rugby League culture has been developed, although without much success. There's been a lot of publicity and work that have gone into it. like he's alluded to, the Papua New Guinea's bid to NRL in Australia, etc. And what I have done is I've tasked my sports foundation and have selected a special committee to look at it as to how we can strategize or re-strategize playing that sport in Papua New Guinea. So I will give a policy implementation strategy on it and other sports in Papua New Guinea probably in the next Parliament session. So, Mr. Assistant Speaker, that's how I'll address that. So we will re-look at the approach we have taken, and we will change to develop it better, taking over a time period so that we position rugby league in a most competitive manner to compete at international standard. On other sports, under the Mara Barroso government, sport is a vehicle we are using to making sure we mobilize the youth of Papua New Guinea in the sports from the rural level up to the competitive or high performance sports level. We are applying a strategy called Go Rural to Go Global. And that is also being put in together. The policy of sports was launched by the Prime Minister, the good Prime Minister himself, recently, and I am devising the strategy as to how I can implement that policy to making sure that sports become a culture in Papua New Guinea. So when I presented the strategy next Parliament, probably next week, Mr. Assistant Speaker, I can answer some of those questions that are in the mind of the sports industry in Papua New Guinea. It is important. Thank you very much.
Honourable Member for Kainantu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Namun something like to thank you, lo. Chair, look, several people block Kainantu. Na mila using this opportunity, lo, to thank you, long. Or people block Kainantu, lo, Makimi, come inside on this house. Thank you, true. Speaker, my question is directed to the, without notice, is directed to the Minister for Internal Security. And if the Prime Minister could take note of this question, it's an important question that concerns the policy in relating to police manpower. Mr. Speaker, the police force in this nation, as we understand, comprises of about less than 10,000 serving personnel. The population has increased to almost 9 million. And Mr. Speaker, you will note that there has been concerns raised in this House, on this floor, and elsewhere in this nation about the concerns relating to law and order. In fact, the number of tribal fights is increasing. As we are talking now, as I'm raising this issue, there are a lot of lives that have been lost. The number of crime is increasing, the rate of death is increasing, and the police are finding it difficult to contain this and to bring law and order problems under control. Mr. Speaker, it is high time that the government start looking into this matter and start increasing the number of police force in this nation. As I understand, the ratio of police to every citizen in this nation is about 1 to more than 1,000. And Mr. Speaker, that in itself cannot solve a lot of our problems. Today, if you walk to Gordon's Market or to many of these markets in Mosby City, or in Hagen or in Ley or elsewhere, there is feeling of insecurity by our citizens, our women and children. The elderly people have been attacked, and just in this sitting, a concern was raised by one of the members of Parliament, the good member for Karakuiri, about a youth who had been stabbed to death. It is an everyday occurrence, and you hardly find any police personnel attending to this. In Mosby City, you hardly see police vehicles running around. And so this is contributing to law and order situation. If there is police presence, it acts as a deterrence. that it will stop people from firstly thinking of committing an offense.
Honorable
But there
member,
is no
can
police
I
presence.
interrupt you? Can you ask question?
So my question is, what plans does the government have to address this concern? And does the government have any plan to increase the number of police personnel, perhaps to 50,000 or something close to that? That might reduce the ratio of police to the number of people so that there is some security guaranteed for our people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister for Internal Security.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Firstly, me congratulate the member Blo Kainantu. Thank you lo people lo luksavi lo you na you maki mouse blongol. Na thank you to long good luck question. You raise him. As we all know, Deputy Speaker, Tok Blo Yumi long law and order has become a common discussion in all our formal and informal forums. Na mi like talk thank you again, lo Prime Minister. Want them government long give him this opportunity, long me can lead him this last space. But as I said, Deputy Speaker, from the outset, that this needs a collaborative effort by everyone. Just like our good Minister for Health, me talk long side long. You me walk boom, long manage him, all challenges you me walk long face him, want them all fundamental services blow you me. Same like with law and order. And I guess law and order is by which provides the ecosystem whereby the country can progress and develop. Now, Tok Blo Yumi long increasing manpower is at the forefront of our plans. In my earlier statement, maybe Tok clear some Papua New Guinea current police force Blo Yumi me just below 6,000, about 5,000. Global standard Blo Yumi long police him or population Blo Yumi should be 1 to 450. Right now, you may got one policeman, you walk along police him, almost 1,100 per man, which may be beyond our capacity. I must thank the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister who started me go past long social sector Blo Yumi, long only put in big plus support straight, long side Blo Yumi long look out to me long resource long budget Blo Yumi long 2023, which is something that Yumi looking was maybe been one impediment long Yumi long address him this law and order issue Blo Yumi. So come back long question Blo you. Yes, definitely, honourable member, increasing policeman and me stop long this la plan Yumi got whereby hopefully next week by me got opportunity long or at the same time present him one white paper long internal security, which by also highlight him this la need na steps in walk long kiss him long increase him capacity Blo Yumi. And whilst we talk about recruiting and increasing our capacity, at the same time too Yumi must give him this la same respect to na this la same support long the exit of our police men and women. We have the entry of the police men and women coming into the force, but at the same time we also need to capture those that are exiting the force. It's a ecosystem that we need to address. It's police, ministerial services or the judicial system, including the correctional services. Me encouraging you, Polgata leaders, the Commissioner has given a directive, long Olgata PPCs Blo Yumi, to make sure that all your district plans, your policing plan must be captured and must be signed off in order for us to have visibility and support you in 2023 and beyond. So if you have not had the opportunity to discuss with your PPCs, I encourage you to talk with your PPCs so you can get a sign-off by the PPCs to give visibility at a higher level when we are planning and when we are supporting you accordingly into 2023 and beyond. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Governor for Central. Sorry, I will allow the Governor for Morobe on your supplementary.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the Assistant Speaker, I direct the question to the same Minister. Minister, I want to ask you respectfully, under Section 225 of the Papua New Guinea Constitution, it provides, among other things, that the government of this country is under a legal obligation to provide sufficient resources for the performance of the constitutional obligation of the police. That is a legal obligation. And I ask you, Honorable Minister, you aware of that section which requires you to comply with that section and provide the constitutional obligation to the people of, to the police force to perform its constitutional obligation? One, if you are not aware, can you consult your lawyers to make sure that they go to these constitutional provisions and advise you? Because what is happening in this country is the government is not budgeting and not taking into account what is required by the police to perform its constitutional obligation in this country. Therefore, consequently, there is a total law and order problem in this country, total disorder. And we in this country do not deserve that scenario in this country. Mr. Minister, thank you.
Minister for Internal Security.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Me giving big look savelo, Governor Blong, Morobe. Governor, thank you long. This pla good pla ask him blue. And I guess, Governor, think me can some time to lo talk. Yes, me clear lo section 225. And it's something that you me long time you me should be addressing this law. If we had taken heed of our constitutional obligation, today policemen and Apsanapolsem. I'm at a time now where me come and me take responsibility, and hopefully one time this la government me plagat longem, but you me can make sure you me arm's length lo this la office. Because it's questionable. Even in our DSIP, PSIP, you me got funding and stop me talk long law and order. In fact, should be outright be funded. So you me no can compromise him, you me at time, you me walk long. Like Ronim system lo you me, na you me lose him this la arm of government, and me manage him, na police him, you me long. You me lo walk about good inside lo this la country. So, Governor, me fully aware, and me appreciate him most this la government, and me progressive government. We are putting things in order now that should have been done before, and we're taking full responsibility. So thank you, Governor. This is a good question, and me make him all get aware, so that you all get can collectively address him this la position in Mr. some government, that this la office into the future must be a standalone, fully functional, and fully funded, long managing Yumi inside long space, long sovereignty, blo Yumi. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Governor for Central.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to speak. My question without notice is directed to the Minister for Education. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the Sacred Heart Teachers College, just outside here of Port Moresby near Marinville, a secondary school, was established in 2010 with the objective to address the remote schools within Central Province in terms of teachers. It has a 3-year program, and the graduates from that school have been doing an excellent job after their graduation, serving the people of the most remote areas of Central Province. Mr. Assistant Speaker, in 2018, a food facility was also established at the Sacred Heart Teachers College to assist intakes who may have had GPAs that probably were lower. So they gave an opportunity for those teachers, trainee teachers, to upgrade as well as get a teacher certificate. Mr. Assistant Speaker, in 2021, a circular went out from the Education Department instructing that the student intakes would have GPA no less than 2.4. Mr. Assistant Speaker, because the college program is a 3-year program, it means that the students' intakes from 2019 onwards were affected, 2019, 20, and 21. This is not to say that they were not upgrading their marks, though, because the Ford Center was already established in 2018. This was done concurrently, the upgrading of their marks, the grades. Mr. Speaker, however, the graduates from 2021 who were intakes from 2019 have been affected by their certificates being withheld. So upon graduation, they were not given their certificates. This means that teachers who are out there who are teaching in the most remote, difficult areas have not been paid for almost 2 to 3 years and have delivered the services. So I want to ask the Minister for Education whether he is aware of the situation and what are they doing about resolving this situation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister for Education.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker, and I thank the good governor for Central Province and congratulations on your election. Teachers who have been in various teachers' colleges throughout our country, including your teachers' college, Sacred Heart, are affected by certain issues regarding the certification and the process of awarding their certificates before they're teaching. And teachers must be qualified to teach in classrooms. They must get the right kind of education, and they must be certified by the Department of Education through the Teaching Service Commission to practice as a teacher in the classroom. Now, there are 2 reasons affecting those teachers who are now waiting to be registered and who are now waiting to be paid. Number 1, some of those teachers, they forged the certificates from their brothers and sisters and from other people, and the department detected this through our system. And we advised those concerned teachers to rectify themselves and prove to the Teaching Service Commission before they are registered. And Teaching Service Commission and the department is in the process to rectifying all those. And I've already given instruction to Teaching Service Commission and the Department of Education to get those things sorted out administratively and get those teachers registered and must be paid. Teachers cannot be paid until they are registered. And upon registration, they are given file numbers. They are paid according to their file numbers. And that process is still pending. Our Teaching Service Commission has been given instructions, and no teacher must be left behind. All teachers must be visited and assisted and must be paid. I take this time also to advise all the provincial education authorities, the appointing authorities, the PEBs, headmasters, and teachers of various institutions, those students, teachers who are now out in the field waiting to be registered must be visited, assisted, and registered, and salaries must be paid. And I apologize to all our teachers who are serving tirelessly out there in the remote and in towns and cities and districts. And the part of that blame must be to their teachers themselves. And on the same note, once you're in the field, the teachers are supposed to fill in the form called RODSS form, Resumption of Duty forms. And that must be signed. You must put the correct registered number of schools. You must put your file numbers. You must sign, your teacher must sign, appointing authority must sign, the chairman of PEB must sign in order for our Alaska system in the salaries to take you on board. Many teachers are also out of payroll because those forms are not completely restored. So, to answer your question, Governor, we are in the process now. Our Teaching Service Commission is working hard now to get those teachers sorted out once and for all. Thank you, Assistant Speaker.
Honourable members, question. Last one. Member for North Fly.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Before me asking 1 minute start, me asking you may extend the question time. O sa mas nungad Lucille grievance debate.
Honourable member, I will allow you to ask question.
Thank you, through Assistant Speaker. Asking Lomi Igolong, Minister of Trade and Foreign Investment. Me interested lo work foreign investment. Na especially lo economic zone you may go talk. It interests me Western Province. So me got asking me Igolong Minister. Minister, you announced in Tubla something recently. One plan, you talk Asia economy, na Indonesia, and first focus for you. Lo working investment lo country, because Indonesia close to, now you like making work on the Indonesia number one. Number two, you talk 18 plan or economic zones inside the country, where Western is one of them. Now attention blow you too long, this plan work blow you. So plenty strategic case study background of Western and Western is sharing two international borders. To the west is Indonesia and Sidan. Down to the south, Australia, Sidan staff. Plan blue inside law is a special economic work now. Foreign trade one time Asia announcement blue you. Enough you talk to you me. People of Western province. Law one plan by you making to trigger strategically also Octedi Sidang Western Province. Now we are the sunset. How by impacting this plan do you going forward Western Province? Thank you too much. Assistant Speaker.
Minister for Trade and Investment.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Thank you, Member of North Fly, a very important question. I think by we talk President, sorry, people go Western Province to Bahrain. And so I'm giving you a very, very important question. Mr. Assistant Speaker, number one, we like to talk about informing people of Western Province, the Parliament, the country also. Then we come up Minister, we look at also. October, we got 10 years left before by me pass. Time October pass and by me a gap of around 1 billion providing the economy of Papua New Guinea, thousands of jobs, money owners by finish, revenue of the Western Province by finish, and by big heavy through the country and also the Western Province. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the Marape also government is a very responsible government. People looks at it. We have to plan for the day when there will be a blackout in Western Province, in the country. So, in my recent announcement, me talks about Western Province is one of the promises by me look long. We must put together a plan how we building the economy, providing revenue or sustaining province beyond mine closure, and build industries. Western province has got one of the biggest land mass in this country. Now you got vast economic potential, including agriculture and fisheries. Now industries, no forestry. So time to engage him or consultants in the coming weeks. Me by requesting governor, now you yet member, by Iblaron, want them all, covering the length of breadth of Western province. Now look long. What can be done in the next 10 years in terms of industries? Australia working some work start tumbler or rice research. Australia mind working work the foundation. PNGSTP is doing their own thing. Over the efforts, you will not join. Everybody is doing their own thing. You will now need to pull everybody together and come up with one master plan, one development plan, find investors and build an economy in Western province which will sustain the province into the future and provide for the loss of revenue to the state and to the province and employment. So every plastic thing, the study will help us to determine exactly which road we should be in and the best structure we should get along. Oversee special economic zone development and what type of zone by immigrant Western province. So, Mr. Acting Speaker, I'm going to play a very important question. I will put my time and attention to this. Like I said, members of governor, members of Western province. We look somewhere that we have 10 years to sort out the province and prepare it for mine closure. And one way to do it is to come up with a special economic zone for the province, plan one plan and get all the resources to be used for one plan and you work one time with all the stakeholders to develop the province and prepare it for mine closure. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
Minister for Mining.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday, the governor for Madain asked me a series of, Mr. Speaker, I asked leave of Parliament to table a document or some document in relation to the answer to those questions. I asked leave to table these documents.
Honourable members, is the leave granted? Minister.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday, the governor for Madain asked me a series of questions which were quite detailed and technical, so I asked my department to provide those details for the benefit of this House, but also specifically for the benefit of the governor for Madain and the people of Madain. So I now table the answers to those questions. They're quite detailed. I don't want to read them through, but I want to table them for the benefit of the Parliament. I can read it out? Okay, thank you. Mr. Speaker, the first question was, the MOU review every 5 years since the mining commenced in year 2000. The last review was done in 2013, which expired in 2018. My response, in 2013, MOA was signed and has been operating for 5 years. Next review commenced in 2019 and will be finalized next year. And the next question, Mr. Speaker, since being appointed as Minister for Mining in this government, where you've been briefed and are now aware of the expiry of the MOA in 2018, and the Ramu nickel mining has been going on for almost 4 years without a MOA. Legally speaking, Mr. Speaker, the Ramu nickel mining therefore is illegally in operation. My response, 1, MOA is legally in effect until a new MOA is signed between the stakeholders to the Ramu Nickel Cobalt project. Therefore, the MOA is not illegal. MOA agreement is a benefit sharing agreement entailing the distribution of benefits among the stakeholders to the project and their respective commitments. 3, all stakeholders to the project are currently receiving their benefits as stipulated in the MOA. Benefits include royalty, annual payment, development grant to the provincial government, business spin-offs to the landowner companies, among others. 4, the review of 2013 MOA has commenced and was delayed due to various varying factors which were outside of the state control. 5, in 2009, the MRA and the state team commenced MOA review by first mobilizing landowners through a conduct of landowner association elections of officials to engage in the MOA review. The landowners disputed the elections and instituted a court proceeding against MRA in Madain. The court took 10 months and a decision was made in favor of MRA. Election of Landowners Association was subsequently held in November. 6, in 2020, COVID disturbed most of the MOA programs. 7, in 2021, MRA issued notice to Madain provincial government, local level governments and landowners to submit position papers for MOA review. Madain provincial government and local government refused to provide position papers. Position papers contain key aspirations and commitments to be included in the MOA review. In 2022, MRA commenced MOA review process with a stakeholder meeting in April, setting the way forward. In that meeting, parties resolved to review Landowner Association Constitution first before reviewing the MOA. It is anticipated that by first quarter of next year, MOA review will be finalized. Question, Mr. Speaker, can the Minister for Mining inform the House why there is no provision in the Mining Act regarding the rates at which the development levy will be paid, the management of it, sharing arrangement between the provincial and local level governments, and the application of the funds as dictated by Section 98 of the Organic Law on Provincial and Local Level Governments? My response: 1, development levy is applicable to oil and gas sector and logging sector. Development levy is not applicable to mining sector. Hence, Ramu project does not pay development levy. 2, Ramu project pay all the stakeholders to the project their benefits as stipulated in the MOA. Benefits include royalty, annual payment of 2%, development grants to the provincial government, business spin-offs to the landowner companies, among others. Ramu project continues to pay royalty directly to the 19 local level governments and the Madain provincial government. The records of the royalty payments are hereby attached. The details, this attachment, I also wanted to be tabled, that detailing all the payments that had been made to provincial government, local level government and the landowners over the years. Final question, Mr. Speaker, is the Minister for Mining aware of the illegal mining of chromite by Ramu Nickel Management Limited? Mr. Speaker, can the Minister also assure this House and the people of Madain that such illegality will be addressed immediately and rectified? My response: chromite mineral is part of the nickel and cobalt minerals that are mined from the pit as other minerals. Mining of chromite exporting and selling is provided for under the Mining Act 1992 and Mining Development Contract. It is therefore not illegal. The Mining Act gives exclusive rights for Ramu Project Company to mine minerals within the special mining list. The minerals are nickel, cobalt, chromite, and other minerals that can be found within the special mining list. The MDC considered chromite as mine product, which is generally defined as ores or concentrates or other minerals produced from the area of the special mining list, and all refinery products, including products made from imported mineral products. It must be noted that MDC is a commercial agreement between the state and developer that entails key fiscal terms and mining contracts. MOA is a benefit sharing agreement between the state, provincial government, and local level government and landowners. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
Honorable members, the question time has lapsed. Now I will give time for grievances debate. Member for Maprik.
Yeah, thank you, as Speaker Long, look so long. Me, and first time stand up me talk. I'd like to acknowledge my people of Maprik. Long give me opportunity to come back in long Parliament. I was the former member for the last 10 years, being senior minister in the cabinet for 10 years. So I'd like to have an opportunity to contribute to the grievance debate. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Prime Minister Honorable James Marape for being elected as the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, and his Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable John Rosso. Thank you for the people of Makam and people of Taripori for giving the mandate. Yes. Oh, Lay, sorry. I'm here I've been out for 10 years. From the outside, I could see how the government was performing in the last 10 years. And what I've realized now is that the most important key agency of government to advise the government properly, I thank the Prime Minister yesterday, 2 days ago for bringing the amendment to have the office of the Chief Secretary to be appointed as the head of CICC. CICC is a very important advisory body within the NEC. All the ministers of government, before any submissions of any related projects submit to NEC, it must be scrutinized by the committee. Very, very important. It comprises of all of our think tanks of Papua New, highly qualified, trained, and expert advisors, comprising of head of departments and the head of private entities that is part of the committee. They screen all the submissions and recommend the submissions to NEC. So what I realized recently, the office of the former Minister of Agriculture, as you see, currently now, in the Agriculture Department, there are 3 acting secretaries who are now running the Agriculture Department. And one of the recent acting secretary, I believe, he didn't go through the proper process. The former minister, appointed a non-public servant to be the acting secretary, who is Dr. Nelson Sibingen. He's not a public servant. What powers?
Minister, what is your point of order?
My point of order, Mr. Acting Speaker, is that the information is not correct about the current acting secretary, as known, not to be allowed. It's provided for under the approach that from the statutory or from the community boards, they can be considered to be appointed as heads of department. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. With due respect, Assistant Speaker, the report I got today, I had, in fact, consulted 2 acting secretaries. One was the current secretary. That's yeah. He is the acting secretary, but they cannot implement the policy of government. The important thing that I'd like to stress here is that Prime Minister has seen fit to appoint respective ministers in its respective community boards. Minister for Coffee is a very, very important ministry. Minister for Oil Palm is a very important ministry. And Minister for Livestock is a very important ministry. And we have the Minister for Agriculture. Now, Minister for Agriculture cannot perform. He doesn't know which secretary can implement the policy of government. So the current suspended secretary, he's still fighting the court battle, and they've been arguing, if I'm correct, they've been arguing that the appointment of those various persons are still questionable. But the point I'm trying to get here is that coffee industry is playing a very, very important, coffee ministry has played a very, very important ministry insofar as coffee in the country is concerned. I just got a message from the growers in Sipik, from Nuku, from Lumi, Maprik. They've just transported 2,000 bags of coffee from Nuku. So as Minister of Nuku Harem, all the Karem is the coffee, all the Kam, road no good. They came to Wiwek to sell the coffee. And the buyers, they couldn't purchase the coffee. They just got a coffee on free. They tried to export this coffee, and after receiving the payment from the exporters, the buyers, they'll pay the Petsman coffee to the farmers. Now the farmers are in Wiwek waiting for payment of those of this coffee, and that's really disturbing. So, Mr. Coffee, it's very, very important. You've got a very big responsibility to perform. I would like to see that all farmers must be paid for the hard-earned produce. And now, in relation to our resources, our resources now have been disturbed. The foreigners, the investors cannot come in and invest in new resource projects because of the SABL, the SABL Special Agriculture Business List. The previous government, in the former government, Somali government, they put a stop to issuing any leases to investors who are interested to come in to invest in oil palm in a bigger scale, or cocoa or coffee, because of the blockage of the SABL lease. And that's something that Deputy Prime Minister, Lands Minister, if you can do a paper and brief the cabinet, brief the parliament on the status of SABL. We can talk about bringing investors to develop our resources, but there's a blockage in the way license can be issued to the investors. That's that. Now, Minister of Agriculture has to also look at addressing the issue of the current 3 acting secretaries being appointed as the Agriculture Department secretaries. And Public Service Minister, you take note of that. If the appointment didn't come through your office, you have to intervene to make sure that we don't create a precedent for any public service, any non-public servant to just put his paper into a minister and just take it through. There was an issue about the forced signature of the Prime Minister on the submissions.
on the decisions. And that allegation, I'd like that to be addressed. The other important economic project I would like to make a comment is, thank you, Minister, for giving us debate here.
Correcting information.
Honorable
This is the Parliament. With respect to the member from Maverick, the information got to be substantiated, and it must be correct information. You tell the Parliament and asking the Prime Minister and all this, and this has been not, this information of documents, allegation is, it's a wild allegation, it should withdraw. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me proceed. Prime Minister, thank you once again. I now would like to thank you for giving support to the Pacific Joint Industrial project in Medang. That's to process our tuna fish in the country. And I thank also the Minister for International Trade and Investment. Recently, he brought the investors of Japan to Medang. They went here to look at the Pacific Marine Industrial Zone project. It's a very important project. This project, I believe, will assist the country and the government to bring a lot of funds, foreign funds into the country to help build the economy. And it's a very important project. The way I'm looking at it, Prime Minister, to make this project work is, I'd like the government to create a working committee for that specific project. You must have a working committee. That working committee must have a chairman. The chairman must be parliamentary appointed chairman, so that you keep record of all these projects, how these projects are implemented. If you allow the bureaucrats, to take charge of this impact project, these bureaucrats, they've got on politics within themselves. So this project, PMIJet, as I can explain to the Parliament and to the country, it was my brainchild. It took me 3 years to insert this project. This project, we are talking about it's a renewable resource, because fish is a free resource in the sea.
Yes, member for Animal Green, what is your point
I
of
think
order?
it's time for grievances debate has lapsed. Thank you.
Honorable member for Vanimo Green, your point of order is in order. Grievances debate time is has lapsed. Honorable Governor for East Civic.
Oh, sorry, Gary. Mr. Acting Speaker, my grievance today is in relation to our economy and the investments we make going forward. I want to preface the debate by starting off with a common element we see across the country at the moment, and that is the lack of jobs and opportunities for our young people. And I think that will be further compounded because this week there was a report in the newspaper. Mr. Jerry Gary of MRA made a very telling statement, and that statement reads that some 30 billion comes from oil and gas and mining. More significantly, 80% of our foreign exchange is earned by this sector. In 18 years' time, we can look forward to 80% of our foreign exchange earnings coming to a complete stop. That is the reality that faces our country. And I put to you, Mr. Acting Speaker, that it is now urgent that whilst we see a lot of investments from budget to budget, and whilst we see a projection that says that our economy is going to grow, we need to start working on the nuts and bolts. And I put to this House that this is not just a job for government, this is a job for the Parliament. We cannot wait anymore. We cannot procrastinate anymore. And I note briefly from the debate, from the response of the Minister for Trade in responding to the member for North Fly on the question of Oktedi coming to an end in 10 years' time, and his very eloquent response in terms of what has to be done in Western Province. That alone foreshadows what needs to be done for the entire country. In the last 5 years I've been in this House, we have discussed at length, there have been many debates about diversifying our economy. I'm sad to submit that in the last 5 years I have seen very little attempt. Whilst we have focused quite a bit on SME, we have yet to see a presentation on this floor as to the outcomes we have achieved from the significant investments placed in entities like the Bank of South Pacific in order to help grow some of these, well, this particularly important sector. But more than that, we know as we sit in this House that we have a massive liquidity problem. What does that mean? It means that our banking sector and the savings of Papua New Guineans in the super funds and other savings have reached very high levels. As a result, you will see that the demand for the purchase of treasury bills from the government is oversubscribed every time. Now that should tell us that there is too much money in the system, and that money is only chasing one investment. It's chasing government treasury bills. And that's not good enough. These investments need to be made in other parts of the economy, and we need to find a way through a very structured plan and a strategy going forward as to what we have to do from year to year to start to shift some of these revenues that are currently held with KPHL and other entities, the landowner funds, and of course the savings of our people in the super funds. We've got to figure out a mechanism to deploy those funds in other sectors of the economy. Particularly now, in light of COVID-19, with the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, we see a lack of capital investment in third world countries, particularly, well, in other words, developing countries. And we sit under that description of a developing country. We will find over the next 5 years that there will be less and less. While we talk about investments in Papua New Guinea, we will find that there are less and less foreigners interested in investing in our country. And that's not just because of law and order. It's because in their own countries, they are having difficulties with funding. And so a lot of these countries have come up with mechanisms and incentives for companies from those countries to move their money back into their own countries. And meanwhile here in Papua New Guinea, we grapple with things like law and order. We have no written down plans. While we have made statements, I have yet to see an actual effort with people sitting down and figuring out how we start to shift our economy. And we need to see actual policies being put on this floor. We need to see measurements. If we are investing money in districts and provinces and roads and all these things, we need to see reports being placed in this House that tells us what is the return. We need to see a shift from all of these non-renewable resources, the money that they bring in. We need to see that shifting to the other sectors of the economy. And unless a bipartisan committee or some other mechanism is put together by eminent persons in our country to produce a document that not only this government but every other government going up to 2040 can follow, then I put to this House that we are doing a disservice to our future generations. We are too busy with projects for today, building roads and bridges and all these things, and we are paying very little attention to an impending disaster that is going to befall our country in 18 years' time, Mr. Acting Speaker. And whilst I understand the pressing needs for us to fight over roads and bridges and little bits of money to fix houses and things like this in our districts, I think that we need to be paying attention to what is coming. And I think that is what our people elected us to do, not just to fix roads and bridges and dig drains, but to provide opportunities and to look at lasting opportunities for the next generation. And I submit that almost every government has failed in this regard. We have been making predictions for the last 10 years, perhaps going back further, that we know the revenue flows from our non-renewable resources, particularly oil, gas, and mining, are coming to an end. Yet I see us pay very little attention to that. Now that almost all of us are in government, I only see 4 members in the opposition, I put to this House that it is the responsibility of Parliament, Mr. Acting Speaker, that a minister be tasked, if not perhaps the Prime Minister himself, in terms of the Office of Planning, or even the Deputy Prime Minister. And we start to put the minds together to not just talk about it, but to write up a strategy that all provincial governments, all national departments, and all districts can contribute towards building this future for the next generation. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
Honorable Governor for Oro.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I have 2 matters to debate or discuss, present during grievance debate. These 2 matters are in relation to seabed mining, the scourge of the Pacific, and regulating the carbon trade sector and related aspects of that sector. Acting Assistant Speaker, I wish to also ask that the relevant ministers take note, they being the Minister for Environment and Conservation, the Minister for Justice, and the Minister for Mining, and indeed all other members of the cabinet of our government. The first matter I'll talk about is the issue of seabed mining. This awful proposal to mine the seabed, especially in the Pacific, because the Pacific is an area that is often very passive. In fact, the word Pacific means that we have been pacified, perhaps a deliberate ploy by those who came to rape and plunder the Pacific. They pacified us and made us all believe that we are going to heaven, so we can just leave everything here on earth for them to take and do as they please. Anyhow, Papua New Guinea lost $120 million in this ridiculous venture, which known scientists around the world spoke up against because there's too little known about the effects of seabed mining. Too little known about what happens when you dig the seabed and disturb the life vents that affect especially the pelagic area of the waters. This is where the most minuscule life forms activate to feed the life cycle in the oceans. Scientists around the world have warned against this, and this is the reason why developed nations are not even entertaining this idea of seabed mining. But we in the Pacific who don't have the wherewithal, the science, the knowledge, are appearing to openly embrace this very dangerous project, or this very dangerous idea, proposal, being perpetrated by extremely wealthy entities and individuals who have no care thought to the future, especially ours.
Interestingly enough, had we listened to our people in 2012, particularly on the 18th of October, when they presented a petition with more than 20,000 signatures affixed to the mining minister at that time. Had we listened to them, we could have saved this country that $120 million. They raised concern, our coastal citizens. And in fact, all of us who are leaders here who have a coastline representing our coastal people, we should take very serious note of this situation. The coastal leaders of that time, shame on them. 90% of them didn't say anything about this. But their people, the people who rely heavily on the coast, on our oceans for life, were very concerned about this activity. In fact, the very early signs were alarming and disturbing. Dead fish appearing on the coastlines, muddied and dirtied waters. Just from the initial stages carried out by that particular company, which has wound up, Nautilus. It had 60 mining licenses somehow issued, even though there are no laws governing this activity in this country. Somehow these licenses were issued under the mining department, which is controlled by cartels, by the way, for their own interest. They have us fight over crumbs and make us think that we are actually fighting over great development funds. I'm glad to say that the Marape government is now changing many of those laws so that Papua New Guineans can actually derive a true benefit from this activity. Now, those 60 mining licenses are apparently still alive. That's what a new company that is now entering into this space is saying. A company called Deep Sea Mining Finance. They are now saying that they have these licenses and they're going to be in the Pacific doing whatever they want as usual, because no one's going to stop them. And maybe we might put aside another $120 million for them to just take away. My concern is this: Minister for Mining, do take note and cancel those licenses. Cancel them. Put a moratorium on seabed mining. We don't need it. Do your research and you'll find out that the scientists of this world discourage this activity because, as they have said, the unknowns are too great. And we owe it to our people, our coastal peoples, to protect their livelihood. So, Minister for Mining, I don't see him here. Hopefully he's taking note somewhere while listening. Take note, find out about this company. Cancel those licenses. I believe Prime Minister made a pledge sometime early on into his prime ministership that we would stand with Fiji on requesting that a moratorium be placed in the Pacific on seabed mining. Let's remain true to that pledge. Let's focus on agriculture and other activities that are not going to threaten our people. That's in regards to the subject of seabed mining, where we gifted $120 million to a company that took it and left and suddenly wound up, and all the individuals in that company became instant millionaires, drank champagne and laughed about a country called Papua New Guinea, which, poor and developing as it is, was willing to dish out $120 million for an activity that would have threatened its own people. Let's not repeat that same mistake. The other issue that I wish to discuss is the matter of regulating the carbon trade sector. Another interesting activity where we have a number of individuals, companies, making a beeline for Papua New Guinea, hoping to take advantage of our usual kindness and lack of alertness in these spaces, new industries, new emerging industries, with those with fancy dress and speech turn up with their briefcases and clever lawyers and accountants and economists galore to once more rape and plunder, because they know they can get away with it. There is no regulatory framework for this activity in Papua New Guinea. And as a result, our gates are wide open. All types of creatures are zooming into Papua New Guinea, slithering into Papua New Guinea, wanting to take advantage of the fact that here houses the third largest rainforest in the world, 7% of the world's biodiversity. And the people who are innocent and unfortunately gullible are people who depend on us. We are supposed to be the guardians of our gates. Sometimes we do our job. And in this instance, we should really make an effort to do so vigorously. And I want the Minister for Environment and Conservation to take note with the Minister for Justice, who should be leading in this space, to develop that regulatory framework. We have international organizations that are willing to do this for us for free, willing to help us to also go out and be able to capture significant monies that are available for countries such as Papua New Guinea, rainforest nations. In fact, we have missed out on $200 million for the last 10 years simply because we have not gotten ourselves organized. That money continues to be available and continues to be accessible by other countries, small nations, tiny little nations smaller than Gero, who are accessing these funds. They have only like 20 trees or something, but they're accessing these funds. Meanwhile, us, with the third largest rainforest, we cannot access these funds. Why? Can these two ministers organize themselves, get together, and organize themselves to reach out to the international organizations that are willing to help so that we can access these funds? And whilst they're doing that, work on developing that regulatory framework. Because based on the fact that we had so many carbon cowboys and similar creatures coming into this country to take advantage of our people, I had pushed and insisted for a moratorium to be put in place. And fortunately, that was done by the former Minister for Environment. Although whether that moratorium is being enforced, I do not know. We're great at passing laws and imposing moratoriums, but enforcing, that we're not so great at. Minister, can you find out if your ministry is actually enforcing this moratorium? Because I hear that there are a lot of similar entities still moving around claiming that they were given exemptions from that moratorium. How can we impose a moratorium and then give exemptions to certain creatures to do this? So let's make sure that moratorium is actually in place and being enforced, and that we develop this regulatory framework, and there are partners willing to assist us, international organizations, foreign government, development partners, etc. Let's work with them and develop this regulatory framework. And I want to also just raise some concern here about the development of the regulatory framework, because I understand, and I would like Minister for Science and Technology to take note. Minister, according to Gulf News, a media entity that operates in the virtual space, we signed an agreement with a company called Blue Carbon Limited for them to develop the regulatory framework. But this cannot be because they're a private company. They would have a conflict of interest. So I'm curious to know, why did we sign this agreement? Was the state solicitor involved? Attorney General's office? The Ministry for Environment and Conservation? Or the provinces where forests are housed? Their provincial governments? I mean, if it's a great idea, no problem. Let's work on that. But I personally think that it's a conflict of interest, so we should not waste our time with this. What we should do is the Attorney General
says that I signed an agreement. I'd like to correct that fact. Where he got information has to be corrected, and I want the governor to withdraw because I did not sign any agreement. There's a big difference. Talk facts. Thank you.
Minister for Higher Education, your point of order is in order. Governor Fowler, your grievance debate time has lapsed.
Can I at least respond to the minister before I sit down? I want to explain to him where I got this information. It's written here on Gulf News that he signed an agreement. I also sent him WhatsApp messages and put that on our caucus group, but he did not respond, so I have no choice but to put it here. Because my resource owners are questioning me about this. What answers will I have for them? Sample time you blow minister trying to respond blow WhatsApp message blow me blow governor or backbencher number me blow lick line but come down it's like cloud nine now one up you blow hang up now talk blow me blow 2 year please. So also no me talk. No, I'm not lying, Minister. I've got the WhatsApp messages here. And this is on Gulf News, and there's a photo of you signing this agreement. So that's all we're talking about. Thank you. I'll deal with the Minister and we will talk about this.
Governor Foro,
I'm not a liar, Minister.
At a later
I'm not a liar. Minister, I am not a liar. Assistant Speaker, please explain to my good brother Minister here. I've got the facts here, the details here. I'm not a liar.
Governor Foro, at your own time you can discuss with the Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member for one more. Deputy Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assistant Speaker, you give me opportunity, me to talk more. Now, joining this grievance debate this morning, I think our two speakers from the governors, the two governors, have spoken about this. Now, me like emphasizing to Golo Prime Minister. That Prime Minister, some very good, valid points have been raised by Governor Alan Bird and Governor Jufa. But when I look across from where I am seated, 50% of your ministers are not here. Now, it is very important that time blow grievance, that you blow minister sit down and have him talk blow, me blow all opposition or backbenchers blow you blow. Because some of the points that they're raising are very critical. The development blow this nation. And I hear Governor Bird speaking about in 18 years down the line, some of the resource sectors that we're talking about in the mining, other industries, law by lapse. And if we are not very careful and seated here and not listening to such grievances and not taking note of them, then who will take charge of it? We are voted by our people to sit down here and represent them in this house. Not going out for an early lunch or going out for your meetings. I think it's about time we discipline some of our ministers that they have to cancel their meetings and sit down here and listen to the grievances raised by our leaders. And, you know, it's sickening to sit down here for the last four months and 2 parliament sessions and half of the seats out there are empty. You like in ministry, the Prime Minister give you sit down and walk in this walk. That's my point. I'm debating. It's grievance time. It's for you to listen to me. You know, blow you kissing point of order after point of order. Look at the whatever standing orders. Now you blow kissing point of order after point of order. Let them all members debate on issues. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, thank you again. I love you, my brother. Point me like raising tete regarding law and order. Law country blame me. Some time ago, me raising some points where me feeling awesome. Prime Minister blame me. I'm kissing talk blame me. That's all. After a week, I'm having 2 district blame me kissing people heavy. Now these issues law and order, you know, concentrated into one district or one province. It's covered the whole nation of Papua New Guinea. And we know very well, Mr. Speaker, that these issues law and order happens because morals and responsibilities sampler fabrics of nations are beginning to collapse, Mr. Speaker. Now, one of that, the fabric of nationhood is based on families. It's based on families. Strong families create stable communities. Now, me talk this lah because some of us who were born in the 60s or early 70s have experienced very stable families. Papa and mama or stop good. Now, lo this lah discipline to even strong. I remember time mipla lik our parents mipla can kiss him kanda. Na belt him mipla, hit him mipla hard for discipline purpose. Tete you know na belt him picking. Because laws created by governments, created by United Nations, created by organizations, constitution, have created that boundary where Papa and Mama or non-up discipline picking. Now the fabric of nations, and that is Mitoktok families, have derailed to a point where now I'm picking in a big at house. And very recently, we heard from the member for Kairuku talking about a stabbing at Erima. The time you look in this law, it's come to a point where humans have lost the respect of another human life. You may treat him not like human life or some not like animal you may treat him. Time you may hold him knife, now you may like cut him dog, you may talk about a bite him dog, bite him pig. One of animal you may like bite him, you may bite him taso. Now life blame me now, I'm saying is where we don't have any respect for another human being. Now, I'm so thankful to the Prime Minister and the Treasurer. As the Prime Minister announced him, also, law and order is getting a big slice of the budget. And that is very encouraging. That law and order by kissing big plus slice. So, is it a band-aid solution, Mr. Speaker? Is it a band-aid solution? We're not dealing with the core issue, and that is you must strengthen families, homes. We are losing a generation of young men and women, Mr. Speaker, whereby all young people go ahead and have no respect of elders in the community, have got no respect for mothers and fathers. You see young people growing up begin to abuse their parents. They swear at leaders. And here we are, putting a big slice of the budget going into law and order. What about we looking at strengthening the homes, strengthening the churches, strengthening institutes that will develop a human being to make that person a better person tomorrow? Because if we are just dealing with police to get the money, go and use the belt and belt the law, or mangi bigger than about law street, but we are not dealing with the core issue, the issue that will change that person to make him a better person. Then you may toromo this man go inside lo bomana, lo one of jail you may like. That person comes out. He went in a different person. He comes out even a worse person. So we must deal with issues that are not band-aid solution, Mr. Speaker, but issues that when we deal with the human life, we deal with his mind, we deal with his heart, we deal with the whole being. We're not just dealing with a human being that is a lawbreaker, but we are dealing that lawbreaker will go into some institute and come out a better person. Mr. Speaker, tete me like talk this sample of points where you mean in very recent times we have seen youths go out there and break and enters. Law and order has become worse. Now this law picking go out because they want to survive, Mr. Speaker. The other day, Sir Puka, member for Abao, spoke about prices blockade go antap moyet. Misawe government law in the supplementary budget has allocated 611 million kina for the home relief package. Yes, again, you may put him some money, but relieving all people blame me. But where is the reality of translating that so that prices block goods will store by come down? Price blocks and palm has gone off the ceiling. Price block rice, sugar, the basic
staple food that our people rely on, and price blame gonna go all get. You mean like pulling this come down? One of the telling factors why people are out there causing problem is because they cannot survive at home. And the survival of the fittest has come into their life. What do I do to survive for the next day? Now we need to deal with this issue. Suppose you may not deal with these issues, it will cause us a problem. And then I hear the member for Kairuku speak about border post, provincial border post. That is very, very important. It's about time we deal with the Vagrancy Act. Vagrancy Act, and make sure that our people stay back at home and we as leaders must go down and deal with our people back home. We must not allow our people to come and we deal with them outside of our districts and out of our provinces. As leaders, we must go back to our people and deal with the issues that pertaining out there. Telling issues, Mr. Speaker. Now, me like go back again. Now, talk strong. Lo you me or papa and mama responsibility blame me lo home. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, your 10
me talk
minutes.
thank you lo you give me this opportunity. Me got plenty lo talk. That's all. 10 minutes and time blow me. Now, thank you. I hope that the Minister for Wanema can take note. Now we strengthen homes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Governor for Western Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Me too like touching Sampla talk law and order too. You got a survey also me one black councillor na president of council me deputy governor now me governor law Western Highlands province. Last time me asking Prime Minister long so similar talk law and order one big contributing factor and me talk beer na alcohol where Prime Minister me give answer you may all got South finish. But now you may walk talk long law and order yet. Plenty employ you may all leaders na all members. You will all go to walk sleep na stop lo Port Moresby na you will come lo Parliament na plenty bullshit you will not stop on the old people. House blow you blow yeah. Law and order one plus serious problem lo country come up. So Pamibla Prime Minister go past law put in budget law and order. And by you me look him. Me talk thank you, Prime Minister. At least you go past long look law and order and big blah. Law and order in said law country. And law is tap that's all in what order in said law country. Now all people blow you me law Papua New Guinea. All good blood through long behind him law. That's all plenty work on legally something where law and order enough law come up long and plenty or legally something stop straight. Also one plan me looking Hagen work blow police, especially the work blow police. Plenty money going to lo sell. That's all next minute. Only pay 150 kina or 200 kina lo policeman who started charge him now only come out. On police station he come up also 1 ATM petty cash lo on policeman too. On jail, you must charge him man. Court must put him money go lo buy you. Na money must go to Calipus. Now that's why something but change too. All money carrying bus now become in town. All the time all money like fight all come to town lo fight. House line lo one map minus away but all money can fight now and police don't have stop him too. No got one man but stop him. I must plow all like fight all fight enough lo 2-3 flowers. town am stop, business houses, amas la something bagrap, kind something. So me feeling youth blow you mean lo country now, number me go big blow through. Ratio blow police too, I mean on nap long all youth blow you mean all population blow you mean lo country too. So this la law and order and one blow big blow something am come up. You mean country, you mean no got money too, you mean no got resource too now. So you mean like address him. But you mean must look along all sectors blow government now. How but you mean control him this la law and order and one blow big blow something come up now. Western Islands province also Western Islands and one hard province long, but you may address him law and order. Before all money are him talk long all papa or leader of community and a leader. But today, all these man, all people in on him talk you me too. So me not carry on plenty, but law and order, Prime Minister, me talk thank you. And Lord, this la budget you put him, but you me must address him. Law and order, and seriously, you must look at all sectors. All village court must work, all court system must work. Now you got law and order committee, law province, all governors, all members of parliament, all leaders, law community, you mean all sectors, you mean must try and address him law and order, blow this la country. And come up and big problem, blow you mean lost la country. So also some kind statement when me is a start full-time law province, na me is a start law communities, all one community start long Papua New Guinea and all good black community through start on them all church and all this law, but plenty money round nothing law town now only making plenty problem where there's like country now, but you got plenty problem. So thank you.
Honorable Governor for Jiwaka.
Calling me? Sorry. Sorry, me. Sorry, me not Speaker. Voice on. Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Long look probably long me. We like taking the time long acknowledge him or thank you all people of Jiwaka long put me la save long all la Parliament House. Me to me like thank you long you yet Assistant Speaker long all give me you some kind speaker and now you chair him la getting blame me long here today. Now, to me like to thank you too long, Prime Minister Blimi. Now, Honourable Member Blontari Pore or Yemi Makimen, now Prime Minister Blimi of Papua New Guinea. Now, for the last 3 years, I am up now and me leading the country. Now, me yamas, now on behalf of people of Jiwaka, me like to congratulate long him. Now, to me, taking the time too long, congratulating Deputy Prime Minister, now Member Blolay, John Rosso, long number 2 man, blame along to the country. Mr. Speaker, me, by making really talk that's all. And talk to me by best lawlessness now long country long Papua New Guinea. We like support him really talk long colleague Governor of Lumilo Western Islands. Law and order situation of Papua New Guinea now. And we totally getting out of hand. Now planning lo imi all members lo ye imi sa finish. Now imi talk plenty. Now some la imi come very close long some lo passing nungu di come belongan. But problem is continue on. Lawlessness may continue on. Plus la country blame. Immigrant total plan the all good law passing, all development plan, all kind something will send down all family blame. Okay, something was same. But suppose lawlessness law country still continue. Like safety belong online blame. All in a good plan. Also line by Sim Bagarap. na tu ba imi Simbarab. For the last 10 years coming up now, almost every month, imi got problem all the province of Papua New Guinea. Some law lig, some law big blood Thomas. Plenty money in the finish. Plenty of mama Iximbara, plenty of sister Iximbara. Now happening every day, almost. Na mi sawa yimi tok to long August something na mi tok thank you the Prime Minister, na la government blame and talk about me putting plenty money on salong next year's budget. Blo walk long security na olami lo lokatim all people blame me. I'm good plus ting. But me one block point me like me no here, I'm sort block point me like me no sem. Law blame me lo la country now. All the law, I need lo mama law blame me. I mean no more effective. Law blame me weak to mass. Now law blame me got plenty all room long all man again argue na win him court na kind of sem. So bin like asking me sem yimi a small man belongs to the Parliament House. And third arm of the government, you mean belong walking law. Now me like to go sem. You must change him some law. Some law I mean been start long before the independence. And start now I got law legislation. But the law penalty blows like law I mean no effective to mass, I mean legal to mass. Plenty law yourself too. And in the criminal court too. Me no lawyer, but me got some experience on past work with me. Me stop 20 years or some one by senior police officer. Now me saw the legal law. We must increase him penalty belong all crime. All mob crime, or some all money go boom, all burning all house, burning all property down. All burning all house, burning all property down, raid in place, nothing. These are done by some of our well-educated and disciplined people. And we're not doing anything about it. You're allowing them to carry on doing what they're doing. The normal conversation, you start telling him, you get away with murder. But in PNG, it's real. People are getting away with murder. Are we going to allow this to continue on? Now, by me, let them all family blowing, marry piggy, all younger generation live in fear. No, all foreigners come to the country too. Mr. Assistant Speaker, me like talk strong long or law blame in the country. Either go to law reform commission or through the parliament, you can make him some line. Now look all the law right across the laws of this country. Now improving. Now increasing penalty. So was money carrying bush na borogo market. Now go out na slapping na man. That person, not killing him, but for stabbing him is to be sent into jail for 10 years at least, minimum. Excuse me. So you make a strong law same. Online blooming by Harim, not by Bianim. There are people out there that have got disregard for our laws, and they've got disregard for our community leaders, and Naimi too, all parliamentarians law here. Those who are roaming around the street doing what they like, they've got no respect for us. And when we allow them to continue doing what they're doing and getting away with it, then our future for this beautiful country is in danger. Olania control him. You know, long time, the warlords will control this country. Because all they got gun, all they got money, they take charge, and the law is weak in penalizing them or sentencing them to jail. Also now, Mr. Speaker, point blowing me like me along here. Me like me all members of the floor must take note. Now you make a look long, law long country blame. Everything else based on stability of law and compliance of law by our people. Then development takes place and other things come into effect. So we see law. Now law is strong to mass. All man will burgim yet. All man will make him pass in no good yet. Now you look awesome. Kind of some, Mr. Speaker. Kind of some all big black country also in China. Only a strong law, 1.3 or 1.4 billion people. They follow the rule of law because law is very strong and strict. And if you step out the line, they've got penalty law and very, very severe. We all know that. And I'm not saying that we're going to do similar in here, but we have to do something more effective so that the penalty for a crime must be severe so that it gives a bigger deterrent into the mindset of all those people who are committing crimes right across the country, either individually or by group. I'm on the line, yeah? Me no have name blow line, you blind our finish. Even as recently, plenty time, you mean plenty government building in burned down, plenty old business in burned down. There's a mob ruling this place, and they're getting away with it. So, Mr. Speaker.
Governor, your 10 minutes of grievance debate is almost up.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Thank you, and little point me making finish. Now, I hope that all the members take note of it. Now, we need to change the law and make the penalty of crime become more severe, and there will be a bigger deterrent effect on all of us. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Pomio.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Midok, thank you, you look Saulomina. To be the Prime Minister, should not stop, but thank you through. Immediately law and order, I think today many of our young people are engaged in law and order because we need to support them through many economic activities. So my point is with regard to supporting the Prime Minister's comment yesterday to growing our economy through downstream processing. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the Prime Minister in his maiden speech when he was elected as in the 11th Parliament made fundamental policy statements on agriculture and downstream processing as priorities for the Marape Rosa government. He made mention of this in many of his meetings and even during his international meetings. During the recent international engagement as President yesterday, he made mention of delivering PNG's country's statement on the 77th UN Assembly on the 22nd of September. Mr. Speaker, the PM said, and I quote, PNG's ability to industrialize and invest in downstream processing whilst building greater levels of value add, utilizing our vast resources and non-renewable resources. He outlined our industrialization agenda as we approach the 50th anniversary of our independence. Mr. Assistant Speaker, including our desire to become a net exporter of both renewable and non-renewable resources through downstream processing of quote. PM mentioned that the agriculture sector must be honest, and particularly at the rural level through price and freight subsidies. That will empower the rural families to sustain their livelihoods as a revenue source in growing our rural communities, our economies. Important statements such as this, Mr. Assistant Speaker, PNG is working towards becoming a major supplier of organic primary and fisheries produce to global markets or in our nearest neighbors in Asia cannot be taken lightly. These are fundamental policy statements made by our Prime Minister. The question is, does the Department of Agriculture, Livestock, Coffee and other economic sectors capturing these statements? Do we have plans and strategies for our agricultural commodities that are ready for downstream processing for the overseas markets. We're expecting ministerial statements from some of these economic ministers this week. The ministers and the departments must align themselves to implement the government policies, especially in agriculture and livestock. As a coffee growing district, we need to know how CIC is addressing the coffee berry borer. I'm advised that the borer had not been able to be contained in the major islands provinces that are producing coffee. This has led to losing about 20% of our crop from the borer, and so farmers are losing interest and walking away from the coffee. This is actually leading to law and order problems also in our country. PNC has been known for producing up to 1 million bags exporting coffee every year. Mr. Speaker, I'm now informed that the recent record show only 700 bags of coffee are now being exported, which relates to country not getting approximately 200 million kina exporting earnings that would be going to the growers. Our farmers needed the support from the government to give them the assurance not to leave their coffee plantations. Our people are ready and they need the support and the guidance. Mr. Speaker, we have so much durable land to grow our rice in our country. Australia meets about 99% of rice demands. Do we have plans to reduce the rice imports, Mr. Speaker? In 2018, the then Minister for Agriculture and Livestock, Benny Allen, said these words in a local media, and I quote, "We have made rice our staple food without growing it." PNG spends up to 600 million kina to import 400,000 tons of rice annually. A kilogram now of rice costs up to 6 kina, and it's actually increasing. Mr. Speaker, this is because consumers are paying for other fees as well, on top of the rice itself. He went on to say that we want to stop the rice imports, supply the country with local rice, and begin to export rice by 2025, off quote. 4 years ago, Mr. Speaker, where are we now? Nothing much has happened. The only change is the increasing volumes of imports and the increasing cost of rice. The PM in his capacity made these announcements. Our departments must rise up and take these challenges as the KPIs. The new Chief Secretary must hold the departmental heads to account if we are serious about taking back Papua New Guinea. Mr. Speaker, our view is that the key departments of agriculture, livestock, coffee, oil palm are still organizing their staff arrangements. The government must work with the districts that are ready to implement the government priorities to meeting the downstream processing agenda. Pomio District, Mr. Assistant Speaker, has huge potential for agriculture. And not forgetting fisheries and tourism. We've made decision to build coffee factory and we've committed and allocated funds for this. We are also working with other private partners to grow rice. We have allocated 20,000 acres of land for this purpose, Mr. Assistant Speaker. Our investors have had the soil tested in Australia. The results are all good. We have increasing cocoa productions. We have committed funds to start a chicken project. Our shipping vessel, the MV Pomio, is always ferrying agricultural commodities from Cameron Closter District and Pomio District to along the south coast of New Britain. The government should consider supporting such districts with additional shipping vessels so we maintain the productivities, Mr. Speaker. Our PM has made profound statements. The economic sector, ministries, and the department to take on board, align, partner, and support districts that are ready. I'm inviting the team from agriculture, coffee, livestock, fisheries, tourism, team to travel to my district and make the assessment and provide the necessary support. At this juncture, Mr. Speaker, let me put on record we thank the Marape Rosa government through the Finance and Planning Ministry and the Minister for Finance and Planning for the release of PRP funds to support the bridge and the road constructions along the south coast of New Britain Island. These infrastructures are adding value to the economic programs and complementing the government agenda to grow the local economy. I also thank the Minister of Forest and his MD for supporting us with the LDL funds as well. Thank you very much, and on behalf of our people, we look forward to the ongoing support in 2023 budget. Thank you, President Speaker.
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker, for giving me permission to speak on the floor today. I'd like to say thank you to all members of Parliament who have sat through this afternoon. This is our primary role, sitting in Parliament and making laws quite rightfully and aptly, as the opposition Deputy Leader pointed out. Thank you, Trulo. I also note the discussions and take this time to join in the debate on law and order, which remains one of our biggest hindrances to development and remains one of the biggest crux of our problems in Papua New Guinea. I take note of all the suggestions that have been suggested by our good governors and members who have debated this earlier. Law and order is a big issue. It's an issue that's been culminated over a lot of years. It's not just yesterday. And we'll still be facing this. We are a developing nation. It will still continue. But we have to start to arrest this problem. And some of the issues that we are doing now under our government, which I'd like to point out, under the leadership of a good internal security minister, some of the issues that we have tried to address is sorting out the police force. The good Prime Minister has met with all the assistant commissioners and deputy commissioners in the last week personally. I have met with all the PPCs yesterday personally and told them exactly what we expected of them. The breakdown in the law and order has culminated over a lot of years because of a lot of situations, partly due to funding. Past previous governments had not adequately resourced the police force, the CIS and the justice system. That has led to a breakdown of a lot of things. Within the police force itself, to get a complete cycle of conviction, you need from the start the police force to make arrest. Once they do the arrest, then you need successful prosecution. We do not have adequate skilled prosecutors or sufficient prosecutors to the point where they can get prosecution. I'm hard looks in prosecution. Sometimes paperwork or something, you know, go straight. Or magistrate rouse him no technical errors. So we need to have and make sense this law prosecution. It must be upskilled and done properly. And then time blow, write his statement. Time blow work him conviction. Policeman work him must be adequately trained. Provide him this whole statement of facts belong. Provide him all evidence so he can get a successful conviction. Plenty of policeman all no pursue him this too. Time you see him successful conviction, ibagolo unblow CIS. CIS or Mangola House Karabus or Kalab Guaraset. It takes 2 years, 6 months before they get to the conviction stage. We need to reinforce our magistrate services. It was quite disappointing when the chief magistrate presented his case to us at MEC, which we invited him to, because it is a very important sector, not just the police. So time we ask him to come, we realized, this government realized that out of the whole of last year and this year, the magistrate services got for goods and services only 3.6 million kina. That is ridiculous. So we as government have decided now to ramp up that funding for the magistrate services. We have actually doubled the budget from this year so that they can complement the sector from the whole law and order perspective. Taiman arresting, police arresting pinis, and by golo magistrate, by working on conviction. You need to adequately resource them. They cannot go around looking for staplers and papers na kind something or something. Policeman to not go around begging the fuel na kind of something. So you will be pleasantly surprised, and I ask for all your support when we sit down next week Tuesday for Parliament session to present the budget, that you may support in this law and order sector. Police must get a big slice of funds. That is the start of a 4-year program. Start blongem and the next year budget. The following year we'll put the same amount of money. The following year the same amount for 4 years until we address these issues. Recruitment. You may have no longer more recruitment, nothing. Man slide in lo dua na kind of say come inside. Recruitment will be now outsourced, so we get the best candidate to become police officers. Their uniforms should be standardized and have them adequately in stock. The police refleeting program will start, so we get rid of all the hire cars. That costs us a lot of money every day. All these things are being put in place so that the onus is now on the police force to make certain they do what we need as government. Planting man talk law, government, Prime Minister, you're going to arrest him man law. 6 Mile, one the bush knife. And no work blame your politicians. Work blame the work him law, give him money, work blame all the work him work. But we cannot continuously blame them. They need resourcing. And now we as parliamentarians and as politicians have done what we are supposed to do. There are adequate laws. We are now providing the budget for that. That budget will be reciprocated when you see it on Tuesday. You may give him money, law, work and work, so that they will have no excuse but to carry out what the mandated roles are. All must work and work, all. As quite rightfully, Governor of the Western Islands pointed him out. We have adequate laws. All man talk, carrying bush knife, he got laws under the Summary Offences Act for carrying an offensive weapon in a public place. You can carabos up to 6 months or be fined. That is done. But no one goes and does footbeat patrols and arrest him, all man. That has been passed on to the police hierarchy to ensure they do their job. And they have cooperated, and they said, yes, we realize it, we'll work together with government to ensure this is done. So now people need him to put in budget. Because time you arrest him one man, you know, blogoli unblamed us all. You need a file this thick, 20 or 30 papers to ensure he gets a successful conviction. Without those successful evidence, statement of facts, or something going inside, you will not get a successful conviction. Our magistrates can't travel to remote Minyamia or go to Kabum or Wasu because they don't have the logistics. Now, this government, you may put in money so that they can travel to remote Minyama, they can travel to remote Wasu and carry out the circuit so they can convict people. Then you may put him all go inside the CIS. Then you must put him, Banis Wayasa can all him all man go inside good. Rehabilitation programs can all him all good. House blow CIS officers a training blow. Next year, we will start training 500 brand new policemen. And not just people off the streets, properly selected, outsourced the training, no bakamna, start learn. The officer corps will be starting to be outsourced too. Direct from university, you mix them all officer corps so that all can come inside and start in a 3-year training program to upskill and manage our police force. The good police minister, our internal security minister, under the direction of the Prime Minister, has gone ahead to talk to our donor partners, outside partners, to try to help us in the backroom work. The backroom work meaning upskilling and training our prosecutors properly, upskilling and training our forensics people properly, upskilling and training our communication specialists properly, upskilling and training or line the CID properly. Because right now, you go to CID office, no one wants to do any work anymore. We lack proper CID. We lack proper prosecutors. These need to be upskilled and trained and resourced properly. So we as government now, law is start. Law is start. We have made those laws. Yes, we will amend some laws to make sense that the penalties for wire katapel, Karim Busnaiblo public place, instead of 6 months, it must go to 1 year or 2 years number. You carry Busnaib around the town, you know what garden the town, Karim Busnaib go one Sunday around the town. The job of the policeman is to stop and search them in public places like Boroko, public places like Gordon's. And no work blaming your politician. We do the laws and we adequately resource them. So I can assure you, gentlemen, that this government, our government, has placed priority on law and order, and we are directly behind our internal security minister to ensure this happens. Mile assure him, Yupla. And it is not just a police force. It is a CIS. It is a holistic approach. Igo come up finish one day on magistral services. We have personally made certain the magistral services have come and pointed out their plight to us at Ministerial Economic Committee. So that people put him, all this is something go inside, like adequately resource him all too. The plan is something, it won't take 1 year to fix it. And but taking 4 years of consistency, 4 years of proper funding and allocation, properly trained men. Tapos you work in this land now, and by him. And then we need to adequately have our people resourced with economic opportunities. Plant this land now, but you looking to reflect the budget, the agriculture sector, the land development sector. Planting man by asking, why are we putting money in land development? Land development, we have only 3% of land is alienated land. We need to, where do we put all these agricultural plantations or oil palm or something? But you go out, partner want them online, blimilo place, acquire them and expand the alienated land program, and also partner with the people to extend our agricultural allotments. I give you some figures. Right now, I sympathize with Governor Pakop. He has the same problems I have in Leh. Our cities have grown, population migration come inside the town. Not one new suburb has been built since 1975 or 1980. We need to house our people properly. How do we do that? We need to expand our boundaries, build brand new suburbs. Taimi put the money go inside Ladisla will partner with our good governor and our other cities and our other towns, like in Western Highlands, Hagen. Ground logara town am short finish. If we build one suburb of 10,000 allotments, plenty mantok bayam ground nothing. The rate on investment, the return on investment on that will be roughly power, water, and land rates. Land rates you'll probably get within 1 year. Land rates for 10,000 allotments, you will make 5 million kina come back to government in land rates. You'll make 12 million roughly for water rates that comes back to our SOEs. You will roughly make 20 million. It come back, lo power, wara, nograsan, totaling nearly 40 million for 10,000 allotments in one brand new suburb. So Taimi spending money go, we will also make a return on investment and at the same time adequately house our people. The same thing will go for agriculture allotments, expand and build on oil palm. We have had good discussions with Governor Byrd and a few of our other governors who are pushing for oil palm expansion. So you may put in oil palm, people need security of land tenure. Time you got security of land tenure, good Minister Maru can bring in developers. All come on go sinano custom ground. Custom ground got plenty head pen. So you must give him all this security of tenure along all. So you give him security of tenure along all man become na build him all something. We provide the land, they build infrastructure, they expand it. If we have 10,000 allotments or 10,000 hectares available, that means 10,000 of our citizens will have an income of average 50,000 kina per annum, similar to West New Britain, Biala and Dislo Lap number. So that is what the focus of government will be moving forward. Next year I'll address him. Gentlemen and ladies of this esteemed House, it is not an easy task that we will be faced with in our legal work. We are making up for the last 30 to 40 years that we have to fix. But who else will fix it? For the next 4 years, let us hold hands, work together, and try and fix it place for you. No got napla man or napla place for fix it place for you. So, gentlemen and ladies, law and order remains one of our biggest priorities, and please support government. I, unfortunately, will not be here next week Tuesday, as the Prime Minister has asked me to represent him on an overseas trip, so regretfully will not be here. But I take this opportunity to implore you to support this budget next year, especially next week, so that we can have a good law and order something, fixing plenty of issues you may got long now. You know, easy plan of fixing. We also have education. We have also focused on education, TVET. We are putting money into these sectors now so that we can train our young people to become better citizens. Plenty man talk plenty law, program law, treasurer law yumi, lo salim ol man go lo Australia lo work. Yes, yumi salim ol man go yumi must also think all ba salim forex come inside lo year. One plab yumi go lo outside lo country, emba sali 10 or 20,000 come back lo country papa mama blimi. Plenty blimi sa go around on nabla country body also all the time carry come back lo place. You mean no sa planning lo nabla place. Custom blimi. So let us be like the Filipinos. One of the biggest exports is the human resources, and most of that money goes back to develop the country. One kind you can work him. You make some skill set, attitude change, you may carry come back to place now. It can also fix some of our issues here. The first time I went to Australia was when I was age 24. Me go down, and it comes with a sage attitude change. Passing blue me lo throw my rubbish nothing arrested the window. Me go down, me just kaya this like I'm finish, me throw my rubbish go arrested the window. I thought it was normal because I throw rubbish out the window here every day. The person with me nearly slapped me and said, "Why are you throwing rubbish out the window?" From that day on, I never threw rubbish out the window again. So now Mr. Toko line do no can from my people go outside the window. It is an attitude change. Time all expose you milo napla attitude lo napla mantu outside. Plenty of line blimilo settlements na kind of sem or line talk law and order issues. And I don't blame our young people. Growing up in urban cities like Ley and Port Moresby, Madang, Wewak, plenty talk miblo disla place. Also say miblo civic or miblo wabek or miblo simbu. Papa mama you may carry more insal disla urban areas yeah. Plenty blol. Inu sa gulo place, onu sa lo talk place, onu sa lo custom work. It is our own fault. So kind of say opposition leader talk family values we need to strengthen it. You may strengthen more family values, believe me, and want a big plus something. But at the same time, the breakdown of law and order, now something, because time you stop lo houseman, or papa talk to you how lo you got stringent laws you may apply in no place. Time you come stop inside urban centers, these things fail now. And two come up, not la problem can come up in urban centers. So these things must be taught in our schools, taught in our education systems, taught in our compulsory cadet programs. Those must be done. And you will also note that in our budget next week when it comes on. Pandai Disla Mila talk. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Lo Disla afternoon, lo presence please. Thank you, True.
Honorable members, I interrupt the debate, and the question is that grievance be noted. Those who are in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, thank you, Lord Yukisim. Siana, you see I'm good through. Congratulations, Lord Yukisim Slasia for the first time. Wishing you more opportunity, Lord Sinan Lab, Lord Olim Chairmanship, Lord Big House, Lord Country Limi. Mr. Nap, Lord moving was a Yumi Journey Parliament. Go along 10 o'clock, long Tuesday, 29th, long November 2022, and next week, Tuesday, 10 o'clock, you may come back. That time, Trusra, Sinan, Parliament will start. Trusra will come at around 2 o'clock, lo hand down budget logan, but Parliament, you may come back, lo 10 o'clock, long next week, Tuesday. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Honorable members, the motion is that the motion be agreed. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Honorable members, adjourn the Parliament to 29 Tuesday, 10 a.m.